She didn't need to learn my weaknesses. She helped create them. And then she used every single one to break me. She was the first person who ever made me feel completely seen. Not admired, not judged, not tolerated, seen. In a world where everyone listens only to reply, she listened to understand. She remembered the things I said once and never repeated. She noticed the pauses in my sentences, the way my voice dropped when a memory brushed too close. With her, I didn't need to explain myself. She already knew. And that, I thought, was a rare kind of safety. I let her into places I had locked for years. I told her about the fears I hid behind jokes, the failures I dressed up as lessons, the nights I stayed awake replaying conversations that no longer mattered to anyone but me. She knew which words could calm me and which ones could unravel me. She knew when I was pretending to be strong and when I truly was. I trusted her not because she promised to protect me, but because she never asked me to be anything else. People warned me, gently at first. They said no one should hold that much power over your heart. I defended her without hesitation. I said trust was not a weakness, that love, of any kind, required courage. I believed that knowing someone deeply meant caring deeply. I didn't understand then that knowledge, in the wrong hands, can become a weapon. The change didn't come all at once. It never does. It arrived quietly, disguised as honesty. She began pointing out my flaws with a softness that felt like concern. She framed her words as truth, as help. I listened because she knew me. If she said I was too sensitive, maybe I was. If she said I overthought everything, maybe that was my problem. I started doubting my instincts because she spoke with such certainty. She had access to my insecurities, and she knew exactly how to dress them up as facts. I noticed myself shrinking in conversations. I chose my words carefully, afraid they might be used against me later. I laughed less freely. I explained myself more. When I felt hurt, she told me I was imagining it. When I confronted her, she reminded me of my past mistakes, my old fears, my tendency to self-sabotage. She knew where I had been broken before, and she pressed those places without leaving visible marks. The worst part wasn't the pain. It was the confusion. I couldn't reconcile the person who once held my hand through my darkest nights with the one now standing across from me, cold and precise. I kept searching for the version of her I trusted, convinced she was still there, hidden beneath stress or misunderstanding. I blamed myself for the distance growing between us. I thought if I tried harder, listened better, became quieter, things would return to the way they were. Instead, she grew sharper, more certain. She began using my secrets as evidence. Things I had shared in moments of vulnerability resurfaced as arguments, as proof of my instability, my weakness. She spoke about me as if she understood me better than I understood myself. And maybe that's what hurt most. That part of me believed her. I started questioning my memories. I replayed conversations, wondering if I had misunderstood her tone, her intent. I apologized for things I wasn't sure I had done. I accepted blame just to keep the peace. Somewhere along the way, my voice became smaller, my confidence thinner. I was still standing, still functioning, but inside I felt hollowed out, like a house stripped of furniture and warmth. When it finally ended, there was no dramatic explosion. No shouting, no final confession. Just a quiet realization that I was losing myself in the process of holding on. She looked at me with a familiarity that no longer carried care, only control. In that moment, I understood something painful and simple. The one who knew me best had learned how to break me because I had shown her how. The aftermath was brutal. Without her presence, the silence felt heavier than any argument. I missed the person she used to be, or maybe the person I thought she was. I missed being understood, even if that understanding had turned against me. Trust doesn't disappear cleanly, it fractures. It leaves behind shards that cut you when you least expect it. I struggled to rebuild myself without the mirror she had become. For so long, I had seen myself through her eyes. Now I had to learn who I was without her commentary, without her approval or disapproval shaping my thoughts. Some days I felt strong. Other days, her voice echoed in my head, questioning my choices, doubting my worth. Healing wasn't linear. It was slow, uneven, and lonely. But in that loneliness, something unexpected began to grow. Distance gave me clarity. I started recognizing patterns, I had ignored. I saw how often she dismissed my feelings, how easily she shifted blame, how rarely she took responsibility. I realized that knowing someone deeply does not automatically mean loving them kindly. Intimacy without empathy is dangerous. Trust without boundaries is fragile. I began reclaiming my story, piece by piece. I reminded myself that sensitivity was not a flaw, that reflection was not weakness. The things she had criticized were often the same things that made me human, thoughtful, capable of deep connection. I learned to sit with discomfort instead of running back to what was familiar. I learned that being alone was better than being slowly erased. The scars didn't vanish. Some wounds don't, but they changed. They stopped feeling like proof of my failure and started feeling like evidence of survival. I became more careful with my heart, not closed, but guarded with intention. I learned to listen to my instincts again, to trust the quiet voice inside me that had tried to warn me all along. She knew me best at one point in my life. That will always be true. But she did not define me, and she does not get to own the version of me she helped hurt. What she broke, I rebuilt differently, stronger in some places, softer in others, but entirely mine. And now, when I look back, I don't see only betrayal. I see a lesson carved deep into my understanding, that trust is powerful, that vulnerability is brave, and that even when the deepest wound comes from the closest hand, healing is still possible. The one who knew me best broke me, yes, but she did not destroy me.